In this lecture, we're going to be loading the thread messages or the whole conversation into the details thread that we created earlier. Again, if you don't want to start from scratch, you can go to appsfresh.com to download the source code. Back to Xcode. As you can see, we have the thread details view controller and we have its UI here. And one thing we're missing is that we need to push or present the view controller once we tap on one of those prototype cells or one of the cells that contain the name of the conversation. So inside of the thread list view controller, wherever we have the code that selects a specific cell, well, and we had a to-do here, so that's perfect. Let's add the code here. Well, something simple is that once we have the thread, let's remove this and let's present the view controller. So that would be, let's say, if let thread details VC for view controller is equal to storyboard dot instantiate, because it's in the same storyboard, by the way, instantiate view controller with identifier. And here we need identifier. Let's call it thread details view controller, which is the name of the file. Okay, so let's copy this and let's add it to the main. So let's make sure that we have an identifier for the threads detail view controller. And so go to the to this specific class custom and put a storyboard ID for the identity. And you can use the same storyboard ID here. By doing this, you can instantiate it directly through the code. Let's go back to the code. And here we have to cast it. So as, that would be the thread details view controller. So if this works, then we can use it. We can set the thread. We can say that the thread details view controller dot thread, the one we created earlier, is equal to this thread. All right. So the selected thread, right? That's the name of the thread, selected thread. And then let's push the or present that. So we may have a navigation controller, we may not. So if we don't, then we'll have to add it. But let's just put it here, push view controller, and we want to push the thread details VC and animated. Let's put true. All right. So what I want you to do now is put a breakpoint here so that we can go through the code and see what happens. Press run. Obviously, we do not have any conversations, but at least let's see what happens whenever we do this. It should already build and it should already launch. If not, then something went wrong in your code. So give it a second. Let's bring up the simulator. There we go. Here is the app. So now what we should see is the list of conversation. There we go. Let's go with Vanessa. I'm going to click here, and as you can see, it has the selected thread. So the breakpoint goes at the right spot. We're going to try to instantiate the class. So I'm going to press continue. All right, the class is instantiated. The selected thread is going to be assigned. Perfect. And let's see if the push actually works. Let's press play. And as you can see, it does not work because we do not have a navigation controller. So there's another way to do this. Another way you can replace this and just do a present, right? You can do present, and that would be this one. Now it's great. The reason why I'm not removing this is that in the future, add a navigation controller. Why? Because we will need this later once we add a tab at the bottom, because we're going to add a profile and settings and all of that. So for now, just comment it out and just do a present so that you can see it. So thread details VC, animated true. And let's see what happens now. Click on Vanessa. Okay, it's going there. Next. And there we go. So it is working right now. We can see the details, and you can always go back and present the next one and so on. So let me remove that just for the sake of learning. Okay. And you can do that again. And every time it will reload the conversation. Okay. So now that we have that presented, the next step is to use that. So instead of the thread details view controller, we have the scroll view here, and we want to be able to load all the messages within the thread. And those messages include text and images. Let's do that in the next part.